time I was on, so I could log into. I may not have logged back into Zoom, so it doesn't know.
Okay.
That might be what happened.
The recording has started. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, welcome everyone to the January 22nd iteration of the MicroProfile live Hangout. It is everyone's responsibility, shared responsibility, to take notes, and the link to the notes is in the URL. Yeah, so please add yourself to the meeting attendees if you haven't done so already. Okay, so I apologize. I'm a little rusty, right? It's been like a month, so I'm not fully caught up here. So decisions approved from last week, and okay, these say decisions approved from last week, so we don't need to approve these?
No. It says to be approved.
Oh, to be approved. Sorry, I read right past the two. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. So since I ran last week's meeting, I'll just kind of talk about these briefly, and I know one of them is going to cause some discussion. The first one there, I forgot to bring up at the last meeting, but that's actually from 2 meetings ago. So that was a decision that came up, and there was no additional discussion on that in the forum, so I think we're good with that one. The other thing about the MP sandbox for the GraphQL effort, that was a decision that was made, and there was no additional discussion. And the fourth item there, the decision that we don't want to have compatible implementations split among different repositories. And so I haven't heard any additional conversation there either. So I think those 3 decisions are done and final. Before we move on, any dissension to those 3 decisions? Okay. So
what is the last one again? What is the last one again?
The compatible implementations, we don't want to have them split across multiple repositories. So the question actually came up because of metrics at that time, and wondering whether or not a metrics implementation, if IBM implemented half of it and Red Hat implemented the other half, could the combined one be counted as a compatible implementation? And we decided that was too complicated.
Yeah, okay. Just from reading that line, this didn't ring any bell.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just a recap here for John and everyone else that has joined this call. On the 8th, when we had the call, Kevin was super nice to send a recall to the forum about breaking changes. And during the call, we discussed what was decided back in June or July when we had extra meetings on breaking changes. And the thread became, last time I checked last night, 28 posts, very lengthy and explaining. Kevin, thank you so much for starting it, and everyone else who participated. And the traceability, John, is in the thread alongside with the conversation that went about 25 minutes on the 8th. For everyone here, we have new partners, like we have Kenji from Fujitsu. We have, hold on a second. We have a few partners that have not been into this meeting before, and they are starting to rejoin to see exactly what's up, not only because of the white paper, technical white paper, but also because of how they shape the important conversations, and that this call is the call where conversations and decisions are made. And they give you 2 weeks from the moment to discuss in the forum, should we not finalize the conversations here. So I'm just recapping for those that are new in this call.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. And I just noticed that on the chat too, that some people were asking, what do we do on this call? So that was a good introduction. Thanks.
Yes.
So getting back to that then, the third decision that we had decided at the last meeting was having one platform breaking change release per year.
Yeah, I apologize. If you're not speaking, please mute.
And John, I know you have control to mute people too.
I do. Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, don't ask for permission. Just go ahead and do it.
Yep.
I didn't think I logged in, so I may not have control, but I'll try.
Okay.
Mute. I can mute, so you cannot mute.
I can mute John.
We don't want you to add me as a co-host because I can mute super quickly while you guys talk.
So can our hosts use the muting power or what?
We need mute.
Yeah, boy, the mute is not working on Richard Green. That's where the dog's coming from.
Yeah.
Sorry about this. John,
Okay.
you're in mute.
John, you're muted.
Hello, welcome to a messy call today.
I don't what is it that we use here? Is this Zoom?
Yeah, we use Zoom, but
Yeah.
the thing is that, guess what? We need to add like more, what is it called?
Host.
John, unmute yourself.
Yeah, so Amelia, I just made you a co-host, but I can't seem to mute Richard Green.
I already unmute. Fine, you gave me access and I'm muting everyone. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe we drop Richard Green for a while.
Yeah, let's do this. And we have Federico Costa also mute. I'm muting Felipe.
The dog is immutable.
Mute. I'm muting Cesar. Seriously, you have muted everyone except Richard Green. Mutes.
Yeah, I don't know why that one doesn't work.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just have to try to get over that. Okay, so the third one about having a breaking change. At last meeting, we decided that we're going to do it once a year in the June release. When I posted that to the Google forum, as Amelia just said, there's been a lot of discussion on there. And it's, I guess the June release basically was seen as being maybe too restrictive, to the point that if there are some major changes in the industry, something is changing that fast that we can't wait for a June release. You know, something major just came out in August or September and we don't want to wait until June. We wanted to provide some mechanism to allow a breaking API change at the platform level prior to June. And so then we continued talking and we came up with the idea of, okay, what about if we would give a 6-month notice, you know, for preparing for a breaking API change. And, you know, through that discussion, maybe that would end up just coming around to each June. We don't know, but at least it would give us the ability to have alternate releases being a breaking change.
But couldn't each spec can have a standalone release, right? So the MicroProfile platform at the platform level may only be able to change once a year, but a spec could still release standalone, and implementations can utilize that standalone, you know, breaking change spec.
Yeah, they can, but then that's where the discussion started to go, okay, now what does that really mean? So, you know, the one that we were using as an example was metrics, because at the time we were thinking that maybe that would come out at the same time as 2.2. So if metrics 2.0 comes out as a breaking API change, okay, now what's the relationship between metrics 2.0 and MicroProfile 2.2 that contains, I don't know what the previous release was, say it's 1.3.
1.x. Mm-hmm.
Yep, 1.x. So now what's that relationship? And who's responsible, you know, is that up to the metrics team to define that, or is it up to the platform team? I would say it's probably not the platform. because they're doing something outside of the platform. But that's where it gets really confusing, not only for us, but for the users, the developers, what works and what doesn't work.
Right.
Do we have a deprecation scheme? No? Like, for example, let's say we start with deprecating, then 2 releases afterwards, we are able to remove it. Because this sounds like it's, if we started having interdependencies between specs, microprofile specs, then it gets all much more complicated that way.
I would
So
almost say that the
deprecation
is a separate topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way we handle it with Java EE, or used to handle it with Java EE, is you could come out with, let's say, a Java EE, 6, compatible implementation.
Hey, CJ.
Okay, somebody needs to go on mute again. So with a compatible implementation, you could actually, if the user did it, you could actually have an updated version of a spec. So let's say you had JAX-RS 2.0, an implementation could then provide a JAX-RS 2.1 implementation, and the user would just enable it. That's kind of how we did it with Java EE.
But obviously the big difference there, John, is that Java EE didn't break backwards compatibility. When we're breaking backwards compatibility, it means that this new, say in this example, Metrics 2.0, there's, without doing major hacks, there's no way to get it to work in theory with existing implementations of all the other specs. So I think any breaking change for a component can release separately, but there's absolutely no guarantees about it working with the existing MicroProfile platform release.
Well, in theory, there was in Java EE, we had deprecation marked as prune, and then we really got rid of it. But so far, it didn't really happen.
Well, something that got mentioned that is so important in the thread that was started on the 8th is about adaptability. If we start being messy with breaking changes and not have 1 year, one date that says, hey, here is the expectation, we will decrease the amount of companies and users that are likely to implement and adopt MicroProfile. So for that, I say, stop. Let's stop being so flexible and be a little bit more ruthless with how we define this.
Yeah. So a pragmatic topic, just if I may interject real quickly, a pragmatic perspective on this is we don't have this problem now, so is now the time to solve it. I mean, there are rules, so we can adapt them. If the rule isn't working, we can adapt it. But we got to have something for everyone to shoot towards. And if we put a June timeframe on the calendar and then immediately poke it full of holes, I don't even know that we're giving the right thing the opportunity to succeed.
Correct.
Well, our initial intention was move fast, break things. That was intentionally. We intentionally defined that we are not a specifications projects, that we might break backward compatibility. We probably lose stability, but we gain flexibility. This was a trade-off we knew up front from the very first day, and we discussed this in long terms. We should not be afraid of breaking compatibility, but we should have a clean cycle so that people are not kind of stop in front of their nose, but have some time to prepare for this.
Well, right. So as Ben said, the specifications can make a breaking change anytime they want at will, right? And so the only question is, when do we aggregate all the breaking changes together at the platform level? And if all the specifications are going to retain their ability to make a breaking change anytime they want, then what that means is we can't instantly roll it into the platform, or we're going to have nothing but mess at the platform level. Because when you aggregate all these breaking changes together and you're doing breaking changes at the platform level all year round, it does become a mess, right? So if we say June is the date, and if we could maybe have another date, but it would have to be a big community discussion and some sort of really large unanimous vote, then everyone realizes if I miss the June date, it's a big mess. So I better make the June date. Right now we're in January, so a specification has basically 5 more months, excluding January, to make a breaking change, get it released, get people to like the breaking change. That doesn't seem so terrible. Mm-hmm. And if you miss June, then you've basically got kind of like 4 months, because the holidays come and nothing happens during November, December anyway. So
yeah, so actually I think it's originally we say June we have a kind of accept a break changes. I quite like this idea. Like from practical point of view, if like in one component, if I know June is a date, I can make breaking changes. I will plan ahead. If some feature need a break change, I will just work around some other aspect, and then I introduce. Gosh, okay, there's quite a bad background noise here. So if there's a kind of, I can work around it, and then I will target that feature for June release. I think this is quite clear, and then this is a good kind of way to socialize with some other specs. We all heading towards this date. The other things, remember, I mean, in the past, we have been 2 years, we haven't done any break changes. So this won't be like a come around the corner every day or every month. So I think we should try June, and then if it doesn't work, and then we can just like to see how best to compromise this.
+1 to June. Who is against it?
Well, I was actually going to make a recommendation that it sounds like we haven't come to a consensus yet. Do we want to give this another 2 weeks and communicate it in the forums and get more feedback?
Well, I was on mute, but I was trying to get Ken off of mute, because I think a lot of the discussion was going between Ken and myself and Andro, but Andro's not on the call here, but trying to figure out whether or not a single June release is sufficient. But I think, like what David and Emily was saying, I mean, if we say that the June release is our target, but then we start discussing that possibly maybe there's another one that we would need to do, and we give it a 6-month lead time, then would that be sufficient?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't need the 6-month lead time. I personally think that, you know, if we as a community know and we unanimously agree we want to do a breaking change at the platform level, we can vote on it, and that we get what we get, right? I personally don't. When I mean to phrase it like that is, I wouldn't want the 6-month rule in there, because you know, if there was a particular deadline or marketing event or something we were aiming towards, and we all knew that that was the right thing to do to make the change, the 6-month thing would probably need to go out the window to begin with.
But that is what about is MicroProfile, like Mark said, we are very agile. He just
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we should aim for the 6 months. That does not require a revote every 6 months. Do we want to do a breaking change? It's like, that's the time it's going to happen. We've agreed as a community. The default answer is yes. Mm-hmm. On the June release. The default answer any other time of the year is no, and a huge vote would have to happen in order to change that no to a yes.
Love that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if we don't have any hard rules, then this we discuss, and a lot of time will be wasted. If we say, okay, we have the target, I will head towards that target. If we have moving target, okay, we don't know what to do. I mean, like, okay, different spec and have a different target, and then very soon we just auto-sync ourselves.
And John, to go back, you asked, should we give the community another 2 weeks? The answer is no. Earlier last year we decided, and early this year we decided that we will give 2 weeks, and we have tweeted, we have provided extra loop for the conversation to happen. It can continue to happen on the thread. but I think we need to keep it light and be disciplined with what we'd say the process is. So 2 weeks plus extra communication. It's not a set book.
By the way, I'll just tell you right now, if we had such a rule where the default answer is yes in June and the default answer is no any other time of the year, and spec project A raises a vote to say, can we do a breaking change? And we want to do it now. And then spec project B says, well, we want to do a breaking change too, but in 2 months, we're not quite ready. We don't really know what our date's going to be. I'm voting no on both of them.
Yep.
Who has the time? No, exactly. Okay.
Well, they could still do individual breaking.
Of course,
standalone
this is,
ones.
we're talking about the platform only. They can break they can break anything they want. They can do a breaking change every other week if they'd like to. They're probably going to shoot themselves in the foot, but
Exactly. It'll kill their component, but I guess that's up to them.
I'll just say that I personally disagree with the fixed date every year. I fear that we'll end up with a calamitous couple of months leading up with multiple specs with breaking changes trying to align and make sure they work with each other. But as I'm outnumbered, then that's fine.
well, but can I get your feedback, Ken, on what would make that scenario succeed? Is there a way that you imagine this actually succeeding, that all the specs work together on their own without a deadline? You think that the deadline makes them less likely to work together at a specific date or more?
I don't know. I personally fear that having a fixed date is somewhat hindrance to innovation and adapting to change, but also it, in many respects, enables the components to get away with not properly planning, in the sense of they know there's meant to be a breaking change platform in June, so come like end of April, they could be like, oh, shoot, there's a bunch of stuff we want to break in there. Let's quickly get that in now for the June release. As opposed to having like several months of back and forth and agreeing across all the community about what needs to break and when and things like that.
I think, Ken, even though we say June release is break change, however, we do need a process to track the break changes. I think at the MicroProfile top level, that Git repo, we need to utilize that. So each component introduce any break changes, they need to log an issue there. I think it's like the architecture meeting need to discuss this one, get people on board, and then different spec need to participate and make sure, get the message across. I think we need to, for consumer purpose, we also need to make sure we announce the break changes. What does that mean for consumers? I think we need to look into that.
If a project so we have already had metrics saying we're going to be making a breaking change, and I've been hearing that for several months already. So I think the reality is that if a project wakes up in April and decides, oh my gosh, we need to make a breaking change and our release deadline is June, the odds of that project getting consensus from everybody else in the project about the breaking change for June release, I think is near impossible. I think given our community, people aren't going to vote +1 on an API that they're still arguing over just to get it into a release because they don't even like the API in the first place. So this might just solve itself, right? And then it becomes a situation is if the dust doesn't settle in that community until like November, do we really want to have them wait until June to get the release in? Well, that may be a subjective question. We may feel we really want to get it in January, in which case we have the backup. We can do a vote anytime you like. But then when it comes time to do a vote, the question will be asked is, okay, we made, a breaking change. The API is good. Does anybody implement it? No? Okay, let's wait till June. We can see what the circumstances are,
Yeah, as I said, I'm not convinced a fixed June is the right move, but I'm the odd man out, so I'm fine with doing what the wider community is happy with.
Well, what do you think would be a better?
Well, there was the proposal that Kevin had come up with in the thread around whether it's 6 months or something else, some period prior to a release, getting a decision as to whether that would release would be a breaking change release or not.
So then
but we still have, but
it could be February or it could be October.
Well, right, but so it sounds like we still are retaining the ability to make a breaking change anytime we want. It's just that it needs to be a big community vote about it. So it sounds like a proposal already, right?
But the main difference is that it's not fixed to June every year.
Right. That's the main difference.
Right. I think that just because, we have that policy now that we can make a breaking change anytime we want. That's our policy. I mean, when I say anytime we want, we have to agree on it. That's our current policy.
Yes.
But it just doesn't give people anything to shoot towards.
Right.
And so we have a couple different specifications that want to do breaking changes, and there's really nothing to line them up. And they're not coordinating with each other currently. So if we had a target, it does at least give them the ability to say, hey, we got a comfortable 4 or 5 months to get our stuff done. Anything after that point, it's a huge mess. And if we don't think next year June is the date, then we could decide something different next year, to be honest. I mean, we just need something to flesh out the breaking changes we have sort of built up. And if it's a rule that lasts 3 years, good. If we need to adjust it immediately, okay. But we just need something soft to shoot by, at least for this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I think as I mentioned earlier, these breaker changes shouldn't be frequent. Let's try a couple, like this year. Anyway, we made a decision this June is going to breaker changes. And then like when it comes to next June, and then we can review our rules all the time. Like let's see, we get this June release out, and let's monitor to see whether this rule works or not. We should be agile, and I think now we just like a theory. I think we should try it out.
I mean, it's not like projects do these breaking changes lightheartedly, like, I want to be in the news, let's just break everything and release it.
Yes.
That's certainly not what's happening. And I mean, yes, we could have done a better job with MicroProfile Matrix 1, but we got a lot of feedback, and this is the why we are changing things.
Yep.
That's the natural thing. You're going to get feedback.
And that fits our agile nature. What's becoming really important, so I'm working on kind of a platform level spec. I just started it last week to jot down a bunch of thoughts, and I hope to publish something that's a little bit more complete by the end of the week. But what's becoming apparent, right, is we've got, if you add up all the things we have in the pipe that look like, there's meat behind them and will become specs, we're going to have in the neighborhood of 13, give or take a spec, right? 13 or 14 specs. And, we're really going to have to, I think, begin, maturing our planning process around breaking changes. So this is a really good discussion. Seems like we're willing to, at least, for now, move forward with the June.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
as we can soft June, and be like.
So it looks like we're willing to move forward with a June breaking change date. We could always vote as a community to override if we need to have another breaking change release. But we're really going to have to be, I think, good about planning and aligning. The spec groups are going to have to begin. Well, they already are, so I don't want to make any negative implications. But have to talk together if there's dependencies and align breaking changes. We're going to have to get really good about planning.
In the minutes, can we add the word ruthless? If we get attached to too many things, nothing is going to work. So we need to be ruthless. I think
only if Amelia's name is next to it.
Just one thing I think to make clear to the community is that the expectation is that not every single June breaking changes will be introduced. It's only if there's a chance to, if some exist.
Correct, Cesar. And one
just want the community to think that, every June we're going to be introducing breaking changes.
Yeah, well said. So basically the June there's a potentially, it will potentially have the containing breaking changes. If it does, that will be requires a major number jump. Okay. If it doesn't, just a minor.
So about halfway through, I'm going to ask that somebody jot down notes here. Two bullet points, it looks like. Just because it's a June release doesn't mean it's a breaking change release. And we can vote as a community and kind of override ourselves if we have to have another breaking change release. Right? If someone can take those two notes, that would be awesome.
Can you put the link of the minutes in there? I'll just fill that in.
It's already there.
It's in the chat at the very top, first one.
Right. I joined just slightly after, so they don't give you the history.
Oh, they don't?
No.
I did not know that. Go all the way down to the bottom, paste. I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty. The next one, I just threw this in here because it's typically our first bullet item, or historically. But I added kind of a MicroProfile to status. So Kevin did kind of define the release in the Eclipse community. From what we're hearing, none of the specs claim to have any CQs that need to be done. There's no changes in dependencies, no new versions of anything.
The operators did one. Only the streams operators, but that's separate from MP 2.2.
Yeah.
Right, but all of the repositories get scanned. So that's kind of the problem with us only having one project, is that when we put in the release, it's going to scan everything. So did operators then, did they do a CQ for the change?
Already done that. So I helped point out we done that, and then after being approved, and then we did a release.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
John, for this release, can you add to the task to send a thread to the forum so that can enable not only the tweets, maybe a blog, anyone included in part of this from the projects, to start writing blogs to educate the community. And those blogs should be linked or added to microprofile.com, so MicroProfile.io. So all of it needs to come aligned, and I believe that the best idea is to send it to the forum to trigger that.
Is there a broader marketing plan for this?
Not yet. I am saying this forum, if you see not only the forum but marketing, will enhance those that are working actively in the projects to do blogs, and we can create a setup with a skeleton to say, here is what you can do to help. I'm asking for tracing. A thread will enable us to start our work.
Actually, I'm going to send that one to you. It's more of a marketing thing, Amelia, if that's okay.
No private conversations. It's so rare when I do private. It has to be something seriously wrong. If you send it, you can add me in the CC, and I'm happy.
Oh, I'm assigning the action item to you in the doc to send out the note.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Throw me under the bus. It's fine, but no private emails.
All right. I don't know what I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have your email. It's
just Amelia Atomic Tribe. That's it.
Amelia Atomic Tribe. All right.
Yeah, Amelia Atomic Tribe all over. If you forget my last name, that works. and send me the link. Add also the link and the minutes of the documents that is already being fed in the Eclipse side of things. So like that, we know we have the data.
Okay. Let's see. Do we? I think we need to also, David, add an approved stamp next to the decision that you're updating. I think we've all kind of agreed. Maybe the word should be agreed instead of approved, but anyway, I don't want to dig into that too much. Okay. The next bullet is the technical white paper status. Emilia?
Yes, we have a few partners joining today because they wanted to know more about the white paper, the technical white paper. So for them and the other members here that do not know about this or have not traced the forum, we have version 0.3 that is the almost final version of this. Lars is not able to attend. He's attending a conference in Europe, but this is the thing. In the minutes, I will add the link. We are about 3% complete. The next, what we're working on, Lars, is this weekend he will likely end with the code examples that need to be added to the document. Then there are some other data that is coming in, like Andro provided the roadmap for 2019 that was not yet added into the document. The request was sent to John and Kevin, and then Andro sent that last night. So what we need, because the review have been done from last year to this year, is once again eyes on this. If someone has case studies, we have someone here that actually said they have case studies with MicroProfile. We can utilize one section on saying how successful your clients have been. Let's see, Komodo, let's see if he's still with us. Majas from Komodo, yeah, there. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what you told me over email?
Yes, hello. My name is Matias, but it's difficult to pronounce, so please call me Matt. It's for short for, okay? We are working on the Cumulus framework, which is an open source MicroProfile compliant framework, and we have several clients here in Europe. Mm-hmm. And we could contribute a use case. For example, currently we are working with a large oil and gas company. The name is Petrol. It is quite a large company here in Southeast Europe, covers several countries, and they are using MicroProfile with our framework for their digital products and services. They are developing several interesting mobile apps, web applications, and actually digital products related to energy management, e-mobility, and other transportation and energy related services. Now, if this would be of interest, we could do this in a relatively short time.
Is there any way we can do you know if those customers, you could talk to them and see if they can give you permission to turn them into customer stories, public ones?
Also.
I would definitely need to get the permission. However, first I would need to know what is the intent. So what should be described more from the technology perspective or more from the business perspective? How much into the detail? Does this mean half a page, 1 page, or something like that? Just to get some directions.
So Matt, Lars is not here. He has volunteered to write this document with a bunch of us that collaborate. And the coolest thing about this is that we don't yet have case studies. The document you already read is technical. We want MicroProfile. The goal of the document is to make MicroProfile be adopted by different vendors not only coders, but vendors in a business sense, but it needs to be technical. So it cannot be super long. The document's already 18 pages, and now we're going to add the code snippets. So what we can do is if we say, let's say, half a page, you can see the sections across each document. It's very detailed, and we can say case study. It definitely needs to be neutral. And if the clients, if you can do an overall with, it's harder to do an NDA and add multiple clients, but if you can share with us the overall structure of what you're seeing with your multiple clients on their benefits that are common across them, that will be amazing. Because not only for this white paper, but also in the future, if you can lead us onto the case studies, that would be amazing. We have not one case study for MicroProfile. And that is why when I read your email, I was extremely happy that you are there. So we'll have a page.
Actually, we can do both. We can do an overall case study because we have some more clients, also from energy sector, from banking, from insurance, and so on. We have, quite a few clients, which are using that. Or we can make it specific for one client. So if we make it more overall, we will just briefly state what the clients are using MicroProfile for, and then maybe we can point out some of the MicroProfile specs that have been used, what have been the advantages, how they have built the API layer, how they have connected this to the backend systems, and so on. So we definitely can do this in half a page, and then maybe just name a few of the customer names if that would make sense. Yeah,
but we can only mention the clients if the clients have proved that they will not sue us, right? Because
certainly we have very good relations with all those clients, and we will ask for their permission or for their approval prior to finalizing that. Certainly.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do. Because we have a thread study, I will introduce you to Lars, and then we will throw ourselves into the forum because we don't do private. It's so rare when we do private. And then we will follow through the forum and start the process. As you can see, the document is shared in the public, and anything we do will be there. But if we do, let's just focus on the overall of all the clients that you have currently using MicroProfile, and have, if you don't get the approval or the approval is too late, just give us the overall picture that we can add as case studies happening. And in the later, we will love for you to help us on case studies by client, because, that will be something amazing that will increase the adaptability of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing is, even if the client doesn't want to share the detailed use case, we have a wiki to collect client like our customers. So basically they could only share their name and their website.
Emily, can you add the link? That is amazing. Yeah, can you add the link? We have the link in Git, and if you can add it to this MicroProfile minutes, I think everyone here can see that they can add themselves. If they add themselves there, automatically, Matt, you can use it and say, hey, add yourselves here, and then that will automatically say they are happy to be part of the.
Yeah, let me put a link.
I was going to say, I was hoping part of the approval could also include the use of logos.
Yes. So the second part, I want to thank Matt for joining super quick on this call. And also we have Jujutsu here. Maybe Kenji is listening and how to help.
Sorry for interrupting. Just give me the deadline, please, for that case study for the first version. When would you need it?
I will follow up and then give you admin access, introduce you to Lars, so make sure that you know exactly how to add the data, and that will be done internally, and then we go into the forum. Don't worry about it. Let's not waste time in minutia. Perfect.
Thanks.
So one thing I need to say about the white papers is that the design has not started because we're waiting for the last version, that is the code snippets. And when the design starts, we have already pulled our designer, Ryan, but any other partner who has other designs can jump and collaborate. That's welcome. One of the things that I think is valuable is currently we have in MicroProfile.io many great partners, and the plan is to use all their logos in addition to community, hashtag community, because with a community we're nothing. So we do want to use, and my recommendation is to use each and one. Clearly, every company is going to be contacted to make sure that there are no surprises, because the technical paper will be owned fully by the community of MicroProfile, and that is each one of you that is active. So questions of others. John, you were talking about.
So, yeah. So quick question for Matt. Matt, we have every other Monday, we have a MicroProfile Marketing Hangout. I would like to personally invite you to the next one, so we can get the ball rolling on, customer success stories that we don't have, and we can start talking about NDA contracts and what should be in the case studies and whatnot. Start thinking about how we should present them and designing them.
Cesar, that is great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
That is great, but what we do not want to do is, when we enable case studies, or we start with case studies, my recommendation is to make sure that should any partner decides to lead one, that they have complete control. We will create the standards on the case studies of how the design will work, a few pages. I would recommend something like, we have a few examples, and everyone here has a few examples, but we want to make sure that the project is easier for the owner to follow, right? So I would recommend to hold off on that until we create a standard template that tells anyone in our community how they can participate and be a part of a case study. I do not want Matt to be joining that call and be the one have to structurize it, because we don't have the time. We're so busy. We internally
start the conversation though somewhere, right?
Yeah. So Cesar, internally
start the conversation.
Okay, so I'm going to request that the marketing folks kind of go take this offline, just in the interest of time.
Yes.
But good ideas around templates and so on. So I'll let you, if there's any other AIs, just add it to the meeting notes. Let's move on to the next bullet. December 2018 exchanges about MP Jakarta relationship via the Jakarta EE community email, like the Jakarta Tech Talk threads. So Amelia, I think this is also your topic.
It was done in the forum, and the question was, Jakarta Talks are a reality with the first one happening today. And my concern was that the title is Jakarta Tech Talks, and then immediately includes MicroProfile. My feedback was, when we start mixing stuff under one umbrella, it gets confusing. Even though in 2018, we wrote multiple blogs and stated via panels that MicroProfile continues to be its own project, not under the Jakarta umbrella. If we continue to mix the two and brand the two as one, we will confuse our community. So my request was, should we decide that we want to participate in those sessions, we must state at front, or we must make sure that there is some line that doesn't confuse not only the viewers, but also the community. Because I don't believe in vague lines with respect to branding.
I think that's a good point. I watched the first part of the first. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, but I saw a little bit of the NoSQL one this morning, and I agree. We are not the same project. We are a separate project. So,
But John,
it sounds like we. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, even the way that Tanya introduced the Tech Talks, she kind of told everybody about what these are. And she did say, even though they're called Jakarta Tech Talks, they can be related to anything related to, Java Cloud Native development. So she did kind of open it up. And I think along what Amelia was saying is that if we do talk about MicroProfile, and we are very clear right up front that yes, we are a separate project and we're going to be talking about, MicroProfile metrics or whatever, then I still think that's an okay medium.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you know in the Java conferences, yeah, we can talk some other Node.js, languages and etc. As Kevin said, as long as we are clear, I think Tanya contacted me, asked me to do a talk. As long as I say, okay, although this is Jakarta themed talk, this the majority talks will be the Jakarta EE. However, this is kind of because Jakarta EE works very closely with MicroProfile, so that's want to know a little bit more about MicroProfile. So depending on what we say, again, I think we shouldn't read between the lines too much, and we just stay clear, we'll be fine. That's
actually,
my point.
Emily, and one of the things that the reason why I replied to the thread, because I'm really excited that we have Jakarta Tech Talks. I think it's useful to spread the knowledge. But one of the things that is a danger when I see something like that be just all inclusive is that, the brand Jakarta EE that we are already rebranding from Java EE will continue to dilute itself by being all these other technologies. I think we should focus on the 39. This is not for us to choose, but this is for those talks. There are 39 projects that are being added to the EE4J specification. They are under the umbrella of Jakarta, right? And then if we MicroProfile decide that we want to participate, even if we believe that we are clear, we, at the end of 6 months, are going to have a mess in our hands. What I'm saying is that we can, with our feedback, enable that project to do a little bit better. If they are going to welcome other projects, it should be with a different name. We should be super careful to put our signature on things that do not have the MicroProfile project in it, especially because the waters are changing. The Eclipse Foundation is changing the contracts, and MicroProfile, if it continues to be this relaxed on how it's being pulled into branding under other projects, very soon we will have no voice. And I'm saying,
I disagree.
I'm going to provide an alternate perspective where, so I think from Jakarta's perspective, they're trying to say everything we're talking about is owned by Jakarta EE. I think what their perspective is these are topics relevant to Jakarta EE developers, right? So it could be things that are not Jakarta EE projects. So as an example, at Java meetups, you might see discussions about how best to use GitHub, right, to manage Java EE projects, right? I can see this being something similar, right? Here's how Jakarta EE developers can use. I'm looking at one of the community messages. That's actually I should probably paste it in here.
If you add it to the minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I want to share the screen here a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at these, for example, maybe not the best ones, right? Emily's just talking about MicroProfile generically. I could imagine there being another one here that could say, here's how you use. I'm trying to think of something off API management with Jakarta EE, right? It's more about Jakarta EE developers being an open system, not it being a closed system, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So Jakarta EE developers are free to use MicroProfile. So I think in the talk, we'll be talking about like MicroProfile next version. Again, I think the other big message is MicroProfile works perfectly with the Jakarta EE. They are complementary. So this is kind of fitting quite well. And I see we should be open-minded, take all the opportunities to promote ourselves. Not because, okay, that's not a micro-profile title. We're not bothered. So I think
it's not about bother. It's not about bother, Emily. But I agree. We should take every opportunity for promotion. But we need to be very clear on how we are agreed to be promoted. Because mind you, when someone else construes or controls their PR, that means you have very little say on how they will tweet, they will Facebook, how they will write blogs on it. And have we asked for how much control we have? I think we need to do a little bit more homework on this, just to make sure that we know our standard, how to operate, and not only this group of the past speakers of MicroProfile, but new ones. Hey, you are invited to do this. I know I can contact this person, and this person, I can participate in that. How do we enable the new speakers? I would love for us to have more speakers. In this goal, we have plus 30 people earlier that, they are writing blogs. How do they become part of the community that is active, right? So not only do we want the Emilys and the Ivars and the Davids and the Kevins, we want the new microprofilers to be comfortable and know when and how to accept these invites. We already missed out a few things because we don't ask these questions, because we are too afraid or we assume everything is going to be right. I am saying, just write it out. Let's write it out. We are a welcoming community. We welcome everyone, but we do so with a standard. That's all my ask.
Okay, and a critical point on that front, though, is that you've made a statement that Jakarta EE is considering itself as an open system, but frankly, we don't know what it is to date. And the fact that Mike Milinkovic is trying to rope MicroProfile into an Eclipse Foundation specification process without critical Jakarta EE dependencies and how those specs are going to be defined, to me is concerning. And it is a reason why we should be cautious about simply committing to Jakarta EE.
Scott, you mentioned it correctly, and you are on those calls.
I want to finish. I want to hear the end of it. This sentence.
It was simply that's a concern as to why we should be committing to Jakarta EE, without regard to maintaining some autonomy for MicroProfile from both the specification process and the usage of the APIs.
Correct. And you mentioned it, Scott. Exactly.
I agree with Scott. The principle is, when MicroProfile was created, it was with the perspective that the JCP would be there and last a very long time, and the specifications from MicroProfile could feed into that system with the knowledge that once they entered the JCP, they would have to be backwards compatible and stable. And a very big part of the MicroProfile is allowing there to be backwards incompatible changes for the sake of innovation. And, the discussion has to be had. Is it good for this is a Jakarta E question, but is it good for the Jakarta E specification process to have an actor in it that is breaking backwards compatibility on a regular basis? I'm fairly certain that the specification process is designed for stability, and what we're aiming for over here is speed at the cost of compatibility changes, right? So the goals are different. It's not even about necessarily is it proven yet or not. The goals are very different. We're aiming to take an opposite approach, that we're willing to break compatibility. Specifications can do it literally at any time. So we have just spent the first half an hour of this call reiterating the fact that any specification can make a backwards incompatible change every 2 weeks if they want. And there's no formal process that they have to go to get their specification released. And that's the kind of community we're creating. So, I agree with you completely. We have to remind ourselves that if the problem is calling the specifications, then maybe we need to call them guidelines, because what we're intending to do is innovate quickly and make it acceptable and understood that backwards incompatible changes and breakages can happen at any moment.
Okay, I can understand that, and it is a good thing that we can experiment, but the ultimate goal is something to deliver which is usable in production. So, or we say that we don't handle those final products as maybe the intention was with the JCP, that the specs, that it would evolve into specs of the JCP, but there needs to be some endpoint which will be the goal of all those different things like config, metric cells, whatever, that they are maybe standardized within Jakarta EE or within MicroProfile, I don't know, but there should be a final goal, no? Of stability.
I don't think that's contradicting if you think along the line of an incubator, where the MicroProfile is more the incubator, and then once things have settled down, they could end up in Jakarta EE that way.
Yep.
Right, we have the config. We have config over there in the JCP that could easily go over to Jakarta. I mean,
I think this kind of comes back to a discussion we had maybe 4 or 5 months ago, where we talked, like where John brought up the whole reevaluating the MicroProfile goals. And I know at the time, I think the goal originally said something around that it would become a standard, and kind of implied that things would go to Jakarta EE or Java EE at the time when this was created. And I remember when we talked about that, I know myself in particular wanted to be very careful to say that the goal isn't to have everything in now Jakarta EE. The goal is just to create the things, and whether they end up in there or not is kind of irrelevant for MicroProfile, at least right now.
Yep.
Correct.
And
You know,
they could end up in Jakarta EE or any other project for that matter.
Yeah,
right?
so hold up for me a second, because John is right. He used the chat. We are past the 1 hour, and I recommend that we continue this conversation as a parking slot for the next call, because it's important. I think we ourselves have not really discussed it, and I recommend, and this is just a thought, the topic, Scott, Ken, David, everyone has something to say on this, and it's important because we're active, because we're attending those events. We want to not only know what to say ourselves, but those new ones that are writing the blogs and are using the code to bring it to their clients. We want to make sure that we align ourselves and understand what we're doing and where we're going forward. This is like a plan for 2019 and 10. So Jakarta is moving, and we just need to make sure how we interact with it, especially in branding. How do we position ourselves? So I'm just saying, let's talk more about this, and let's continue to have this conversation. I recommend that we park at 5 minutes and don't move from 5 minutes, always leaving it at the end of each call, because it needs to be discussed.
Sure. I'll simply say that with my Jakarta hat on, if the conversation of how can we aggressively make backwards incompatible changes came into the specification committee's discussion point, I would find it an incredibly unhelpful conversation, because it's not what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Right? And I'd be like, why are you even here if your entire purpose is to break all of your APIs all the time?
Yes. And why are you being noisy? Like, seriously, guys.
That would be my reaction.
Mm-hmm. John, you're closing the call, right?
Yes, I'm going to close the call. Thanks everyone for joining. We have this call in 2 weeks, same bat time, same bat channel, and until then, code on, I guess.
Okay,
bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.